Okay, this is Orlando Wilson. What I want to talk about in this video is really current affairs. What's going on in the world at the moment and how it's going to affect people, and especially the close protection investigation business. I think the close protection investigations business is looking pretty good, because whenever there's chaos, people need security. And sadly, it takes people to see the chaos to actually want security. Where if security is put in place to start with, you're not going to have these issues. You know what, the world was screwed up before this issue between Israel and the Palestinians. You know what, the mess with Ukraine, there's fallout from that everywhere. And again, the failure, and we can put it down to the Hamas attack on Israel was complete failure, not just of Israeli intelligence, but also of Western intelligence, etc. The fact nothing was picked up on before and acted on before is pretty horrendous. Also, the fact that apparently, well, the fact that weapons from Ukraine have turned up in Hamas's hands is, again, it was all predicted. If people didn't think this was going to happen, then they're part of the problem, and we know who the problem is. So again, we have this mess to deal with. It was a failure, complete failure of intelligence, security, etc. But back to what I was saying earlier, people generally need to see the chaos before they take security seriously, because it's never going to happen to us, right? Terrorists aren't going to fly airplanes into buildings. Hamas is not going to attack Israel. But shit happens, and now we deal with the outcome. So this is going to spread instability globally. I'm going to stay out of the politics. I think one of the big issues with this issue is people are getting involved, countries are getting involved that shouldn't. It should be down to the Israelis and the Palestinians to sort out. But sadly, this whole thing is going global. So from a security perspective, how do I see things developing? Is the terrorism threat going to be up? I think, yeah, considerably. And again, you know what? I know plenty of good Israelis. I know plenty of good Palestinians. And it's not those people that's a problem. It's the nutcases. It's the crazies. It's the extremists, as always. And the fringe elements generally cause the problems. I think there's going to be a lot more threat from, in the American term, the lone wolf for the active shooter, the attack, the stabbing attacks, etc. So again, from an event side of things, from a public gathering side of things, you're going to have to be on a watch out for the crazies. It's very easy for these days for people to get hold of firearms, weapons, and it doesn't take much for some crazy to go to a large public gathering, be it an event, etc., be it a busy city center, anywhere there's a large gathering of people, and cause chaos. So what can we do to counter this? There's not much we can do. Somebody, when I was in Florida recently, asked me about, okay, what intelligence is there? Well, there's not much. Well, the whole intelligence gathering process has been thrown out the window, really, because I was saying to this gentleman, how do you know who's in the United States? Your borders are open. I wrote an article many years ago about Venezuela, and it was identified then that Hezbollah was working in Venezuela. Everybody knows that. It's a clear fact throughout Latin America. So could those people have pushed agents operatives into the US across the open border? Yeah, of course they can. Same with Europe. Nobody knows who's in Europe. All these refugees have come in from other countries, Middle Eastern countries, etc. Who knows who's in Europe? Who knows who's in the United States? Because there's no border. There's no border checks. The borders are open. And then it comes down to, we got the radicalized Westerners or Americans that need a cause to latch onto, and this is a perfect cause to latch onto. So, you know what? It's pretty, the game's pretty open at the moment. So this backs down to the basics of awareness, and just spotting things that are out of the ordinary. There's no magic to this. To be honest with you, I don't have much faith in law enforcement at the moment, be it European or American, because again, the borders are open. They're too busy with their woke agendas and chasing people that's putting nasty posts on Facebook, etc. So what do they care about terrorism? It's funny now because in Europe, and there's a lot of countries in Europe that used to be nice, peaceful, easy places to live. And I've seen the change over the last how many years. And this isn't an anti-immigrant rant. I spent most of my life being an immigrant in other people's countries, so I understand things. A legal immigrant. Things have changed. Places have changed. And I think the safe havens that used to be Europe, people need to wake up, because the threat is very real, and the threat will apply to everyone. And I wouldn't just say it's from terrorism. A lot of when times get hard, the criminals take advantage of those times. And I think the Hamas attack on Israel has highlighted how lax a lot of national security is, how lax a lot of the supposed high-end intelligence agencies are. If Israeli intelligence missed the Hamas attack, what are intelligence and police agencies in Europe picking up on? If Hamas can cross the supposedly most defended border in the world, what does that mean for the rest of the world? What does it mean for the open borders in Europe? What does it mean if a group of people get together, and we've said this if you follow my stuff, we said this for years. The frightening scenario is a group of people, be it 3, 4, 5 plus, get hold of firearms, assault weapons that are available from Ukraine. They get hold of serious firepower, and again, they have some experience, they have some training, and they don't need much training. If these people decide to start attacking targets within Europe, within the US, there's going to be big problems. There's going to be big casualties. And again, from a close protection security perspective, all we can do is try and pick up on this, and again, be reactionary. As I tell people in the close protection world, we don't get involved in things, we just get the hell out of there with the clients. But again, for law enforcement that's responding to this, it's a huge problem. And I think the training of law enforcement needs to be up, the budgets of law enforcement needs to be up, and they need to start taking control of things, because the way things are going, things are getting out of control. I'm sure some people will say, oh, you're talking BS, etc. But as I said, people aren't going to fly planes into buildings, right? Hamas is not going to attack Israel, right? It's one of the things where there's a lot of people out there, and I see it with some of the people I deal with, there's a lot of hatred. And I'm not just talking the Palestinian-Israeli issue. I think there's a lot of hatred towards the West. There's a lot of, I see a lot of people that's hating the West because of the colonial days. I see a lot of right-wing hating immigrants because they're immigrants, etc. So at the moment, the world, to me, there's a lot of hatred on all sides. And all this needs to be taken into consideration when you're doing your threat assessments, etc. And again, a lot of hatred. There's weapons out there. They're freely available, even in Europe, even though people are in denial. It's going to be, how can I put it, difficult times. And this is where we all need to be aware of what's going on. Because again, it's not going to take much. A couple of guys and girls, organized, a little bit of training. The weapons are out there. If they're determined to do an attack, it's going to be a complete mess. Because I know law enforcement would do their best, but to be honest with you, their intelligence is failed. The borders are open. And again, they're not trained to deal with such things. They've been, for how many years, they've been focusing on woke agendas, which might be cool, but I think everybody should be beginning to see it's been a complete and utter waste of time. And while they've been wasting time on woke agendas, they've put the general public, who they should be protecting, at risk, serious risk. So follow me along on social media. I've got a lot more of these videos coming up. And in the meantime, be good, stay safe, and stay out of trouble. And these days, be very, very aware of what's going on around you, your surroundings, etc. Anything that looks dodgy, of course, call the police and get the hell out of the area. It's not your job to deal with other people's problems.